people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. A second look at Mauricio Sulaiman's reaction to the email correspondence he received from Dmitry Bivol's lawyer officially vacating the WBC title. Mauricio Sulaiman reacted to the letter by saying, "I have just received a cold and impersonal notification from Dmitry Bivol's lawyer, Patrick English, with arguments that are so ridiculous that I rather not discuss informing the WBC that Dmitry has decided to relinquish his WBC light heavyweight title. We wish Bivol success and hereby confirm David Benavidez as the WBC World Light Heavyweight Champion." He described the email correspondence as being cold and impersonal, but I read through the letter. It was pretty professional as far as I could see. What's Mauricio expecting them to do? Put little hearts on where all the periods are supposed to be? Yours truly? Sincerely. You talk about cold and impersonal. You basically ostracized this fighter from fighting for your world title for no reason other than a war that he has no control over. Dmitry Bivol is not a soldier. When the conflict kicked off between Russia and Ukraine, you held the boxers accountable, as if they had any control over what was going on. They're not soldiers and they're not politicians. In spite of this, you alienated boxers, just like Dmitry Bivol. Some would call that cold and impersonal. He claims they made ridiculous arguments. Like what? Ridiculous arguments that he cared not to address. You mean you guys not being next in the rotation? It's established that in most other weight classes where there is a unified and/or undisputed champion, all of the alphabets adhere to a rotation of mandatories. And when it comes to light heavyweight, you guys weren't next in the rotation. You know that. That's why you didn't want to address it. When Dmitry Bivol's lawyer said, "We are dismayed at the inability of the ratings organizations to adhere to the rotation system set up many years ago," you were aware that the IBF claimed to be the lead organization with justification for the next Bivol bout. Mauricio knew exactly what they were talking about, that Michael Eifert is supposed to be next. So when you jump ahead in the queue and order a fight with David, you're putting Dmitry in a compromising position, where you weren't this Johnny on the spot with Jermall Charlo when he was WBC champion and he had a mandatory in the queue, and Carlos Adames. You weren't so quick to order that fight. That went on for all of a year. And in the end, you never even ordered it. So that not but a few weeks after Dmitry wins the WBC title, you're already hounding him with a mandatory. Why did you not extend the courtesy to Dmitry that you extended to Jermall Charlo? The courtesy you extended to Errol Spence Jr. the whole time he was WBC champion. How many mandatories did he satisfy for you guys? So that as soon as Dmitry becomes WBC champion, you're bogging him down with a mandatory, knowing that he's committed to a trilogy, and knowing that you're not even next in the queue. You did it on purpose. That's established. You did it because you don't want a Russian fighter holding your title. That's what it is. You're pigeonholing a guy, so that if he has to choose between being loyal to Turkey, who's given him the biggest opportunities, and you, who are trying to deprive him of them, it's an easy choice to make. Now, if you're more comfortable with David Benavidez being your WBC champion, go ahead. Give him the belt and see who gives a damn. To see how many pay-per-views that sells, how many sanctioning fees that gets you. Go ahead. After all the work that Dmitry Bivol has put into this division, it's a situation to where the belt don't make the fighter makes the belt. Everybody knows who the man is at 175. You're just adding to the conversation as it pertains to how useless, just how useless these alphabet organizations are, because what do you actually do aside from siphon money from fighters' purses?
What is your actual function?
You're just a self-important jackass who fancies himself a promoter.
And how's the Bridgerweight division coming along?
Another one of Mauricio's bright ideas, best described as a guy who's sometimes doing too much and other times he's not doing nearly enough.
He's an idiot.
A fat, self-important jackass.
He's an idiot.
The inconsistencies from the WBC in particular have become more and more brazen over time, to where it's obvious you guys do whatever you want whenever you feel like, so why should fighters continue to pay you sanctioning fees?
I still, for the life of me, don't understand why fighters choose to climb up the WBC's ranked standings when in the end, they're gonna do whatever they want to do, irrespective of how long you've been paying them.
And how much. They reserve the right to do whatever they want to do, and they can do that so long as you play along. But if you go another route, go after another alphabet title.
Who needs the WBC?
Dmitry's the man to beat at this weight, and that is established. You by yourselves can't change that with your backdoor deals.
Because you ain't the lifeblood of boxing.
The fans are, and the fans know what you did. Upstairs, in the heavyweight division, a heavyweight tournament with Kubrat Pulev, Fabio Wardley, Michael Hunter, and Jarrell Miller? The failed effort to move forward with a mandated Kubrat Pulev versus Fabio Wardley secondary title fight has resulted in a proposed mini-tournament. Boxing Scene has confirmed that the WBA has called for a 4-man heavyweight box-off involving the aforementioned fighters, along with Michael Hunter and Jarrell Miller. According to a ruling obtained by Boxing Scene, Pulev would defend his WBA regular title against Michael Hunter, while Fabio Wardley and Jarrell Miller would vie for the interim version of the belt. The winners would then have to meet by the shorter period of 180 days after their respective bouts, or no later than December 31st of this year.
They said the failed effort to put Fabio in the ring with Pulev. I wonder where it all went wrong, and I wonder why it fell apart. Because if it fell apart due to Kubrat Pulev wanting more money, then he just shot himself in the foot. Think about it. You don't make fighting Michael Hunter what you could have made fighting Fabio Wardley. Only one of them has a major promoter behind them. And those are both fights that Kubrat Pulev, who's up there in age now, could lose. You could lose to Michael Hunter just as easily as you could have lost to Fabio Wardley. The difference is, one fight pays better. So if this fight fell apart due to the Pulev side of things, it would seem that they shot themselves in the foot.
As first reported by Ring Magazine, Wardley and Miller are now due to meet on June 7th in Wardley's hometown of Ipswich, England, outside of London. The bout, which will take place at the Portman Road Soccer Stadium, was approved to allow Queensberry Promotions to keep its date originally reserved for the previously ordered Pulev fight.
Now the Jarrell Miller fight.
On 19 March of 2025, Queensberry Promotions, on behalf of the number 1 ranked contender Fabio Wardley, requested the WBA to sanction an interim title shot against Jarrell Miller due to failed negotiations with Pulev and to avoid losing the date and venue of 7th of June 2025 at Portman Road, Ipswich, England. The WBA Championships Committee Chairman Carlos Chavez stated in Friday's resolution, the request by Queensberry came 3 days after Hall of Fame promoter Don King requested that Hunter be named as the mandatory challenger, given the failed talks between Pulev and Wardley. As it turned out, both parties would see their wishes granted. If required, the WBA to abandon its previous attempt to reduce its number of secondary titleists. One mandatory contender for each weight class may be selected by the Championships Committee from the list of ranked boxers or by elimination, Chavez stated in recapping WBA Rule C-14. In general, the highest ranked boxer in the division or a regional champion ranked in the top 5 may qualify to be named an official contender by the Championships Committee unless he is or is likely to be unavailable to fight for the title within the required time period. Based on the above-mentioned rules, the WBA has express authority to modify applicable defense periods and otherwise suspend applications of various rules under a special permit. And because the WBA regular title wasn't active for a long period of time,
that's just a fanciful way of saying they reserve the right to do whatever they want.
Pulev, 32-3 with 14 knockouts, and Hunter have 30 days from Friday to reach terms for their WBA regular heavyweight title fight. Bulgaria's Pulev, 45, claimed the belt in a 12-round unanimous decision over Mahmoud Char last December 7th in his Sofia hometown. The performance extended his current 3-fight winning streak. He was previously ordered on March 5th to face Fabio Wardley, but the talks went nowhere, hence the audible called by Queensberry, given the reserved homecoming headliner for its heavyweight.
Shot himself in the foot, man. You could have been boxing on Queensberry for more money, I think, than you stand to make boxing on a Don King show against Michael Hunter.
Michael Hunter is technically unbeaten in his last 14 starts. That does not include a loss to Artem Suzlakan last May on an IBA-sanctioned card, which is not recognized by official record keepers given the lack of a national governing body overseeing the events.
You will recall that for a long time, the IBA oversaw all of the amateur bouts, all of the amateur action, but they recently lost recognition from the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and thus they have turned to professional boxing.
They're staging professional boxing matches now. They're basically promoters, but they're not recognized. So whatever happens on an IBA show stays on an IBA show. And Michael Hunter lost one on an IBA show, but it has no bearing on his professional record. And thus, the lone career defeat suffered by Hunter came in an April 2017 unanimous decision loss to Alexander Usyk, the WBO cruiserweight champion at the time. Ukraine's Usyk went on to fully unify the cruiserweight division and did the same at heavyweight in his first of 2 wins over Tyson Fury last May. Usyk remains the recognized lineal and unified WBA Super, IBF, WBO, and Ring Magazine champion. The 38-year-old southpaw is unaffected by the above-mentioned WBA resolution. Approval was already granted for Wardley versus Miller to come with the resurrected interim title at stake. Wardley, 18-0 with 1 draw and 17 knockouts, will enter his first title fight of sorts, which follows his 2-fight set with Frazier Clark. The two fought to a draw in their terrific 12-round affair last March at London's O2 Arena. Wardley obliterated Clark in less than a round last October in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Miller, 26-1 with 2 draws, is aiming to rebound from a 2-fight winless streak.
A reformed, multi-time drug cheat, Miller of Brooklyn, New York, was stopped in the 10th round of a December 2023 clash with Daniel Dubois.
So these are just my thoughts. As it pertains to the failed fight between Pulev and Fabio, like I said, it would seem that Kubrat Pulev shot himself in the foot. Because for not fighting Fabio, you're stuck with Michael Hunter now.
Stuck with Don King now.
That is unless somebody in Sofia, Bulgaria can get up enough money that they do the fight over there, because that's Pulev's best chance to win, having home field advantage. And even then, it's not a guarantee because the man is 45 years old.
The only real value in that WBA regular title that Pulev won from Mahmoud Char is parlaying that into a big payday, and I don't think you're doing that by fighting Michael Hunter. God forbid you end up in a shoebox in Florida, promoted by Don King, and end up losing?
Losing to Michael Hunter. There goes the neighborhood.
Wardley versus Miller.
This is a better fight to me than a Pulev fight. It's an upgrade. Upon Jarrell Miller's return to the heavyweight scene, his value was not lost on me because he's a character.
He's also a drug cheat.
Not saying he isn't. But over time, I've actually softened my stance on doping in the sport of boxing because I'm convinced everybody's doping, even if everybody's not getting caught.
The signs are there. When anybody from a Conor Ben to a Canelo to a Tyson Fury to a Ryan Garcia
all get caught with banned substances in their systems, and every single one of them has some lofty explanation for how that got there, paints a picture to where the whole goddamn sport might be doping.
And if they are, what sense is there pigeonholing one guy for what is an industry standard?
Jarrell Miller may be a drug cheat, but he's not the only one.
People talk a lot of shit. Thing about it is, y'all say I want boxers, y'all want killers, but when y'all get people like that, they want to apologize for it. I'm not apologizing for shit. Where I come from, ain't nobody apologize for nothing. You take what you gotta take, you gotta go eat. They want a show, they gotta show. You're not gonna make no diss track, call my name out. You're not gonna with the contract, disrespect me and my team, make a whole bunch of demands, suck my Come, Juice, I'ma you up, bro.
Come on.
Y'all disrespect people all the time. What do you expect? Fighters get disrespect all the time, and they don't want to come out here and play nice. There's a lot of disrespect behind closed doors.
No one's
a lot of people run up on me asking me for bro. There's a lot of disrespect y'all don't know about, bro. A lot of disrespect that goes on. Especially when you're going to top for a promoter. A lot of disrespect goes on.
You get respect
and they don't want to talk about certain things. Listen, if anybody that's done an interview with me, you know I'm very articulate. I speak very well. But if you push my buttons, I'm going to slap the out you.
I welcome Big Gravy back to the heavyweight scene. He's coming off that draw with Andy Ruiz, what should have been a decisive victory because Jarrell Miller did all the work, and all Andy Ruiz did was circle from one end of the ring to the other, moving away from Jarrell Miller, not engaging, not fighting, not trying to win the round.
That was on the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov.
He's coming into this Wardley fight. I saw the press conference yesterday. I saw Fabio Wardley say that he actually picked Jarrell Miller. From the list of names he was given, he picked him.
It's not an easy fight.
Jarrell did get knocked out by Daniel Dubois, but it took a lot. It took a lot of effort to finally get him out of there, and unless I'm mistaken, he didn't get him out of there until the final round. And this is who Fabio Wardley picked. Fabio is not as experienced now as Daniel was then when he stopped Jarrell.
Some banana skin energy in association with this fight because we all know how Jarrell Miller goes about fighting a fight. He's a mid-range to inside pressure guy, a very big one, a physically imposing one.
Fabio is fast, and he's strong, he's explosive, he's got a big punch, but a lot of guys do in the heavyweight division. Daniel Dubois has a big punch.
Look at how much he had to punch up on Jarrell Miller to finally get him out of there, to finally force a stoppage. It took a lot, and I don't know with any certainty that Fabio can do the same or more. I don't know.
You know, he knocked out David Adilier, and he knocked out Frazier Clark in their rematch, and those are good wins for where he is right now. But we can all agree that Jarrell Miller is more seasoned than those fighters were, than David Adilier, than Frazier Clark. In the paid ranks, Jarrell Miller is more experienced, and I think more durable. I don't think this is going to be easy. At first glance, I think Fabio may have made a mistake here. Did he pick Jarrell Miller with the knockout loss to Daniel in mind? Because Daniel did knock him out, but it took a lot. It took a whole lot to get Jarrell Miller out of there. In the process of punching up on a Jarrell Miller as he barrels forward, you could in turn punch yourself out. And if you do and those legs start to slow, he's going to be all over you.
This is definitely a better fight than the Kubrat Pulev fight would have been because this one has more potential to be competitive and this one has more potential for an upset.
Win over Fabio Wardley would be arguably the crowned jewel of Jarrell Miller's heavyweight CV so far.
Smart man traveling to the UK for this opportunity.
And I'm sure they've arranged it to where if by some chance Jarrell Miller wins, Frank may have options on him moving forward. It's the industry standard. Everybody does it.
So at first glance, this is a better fight than the Pulev fight would have been, but it's because there's more chance of an upset.
What you have to ask yourself is, can Fabio Wardley knock out Jarrell Miller faster than Daniel Dubois did? Do you believe he can? Because if he doesn't, he's in for a long night.
Big gravy!